What's up everybody, Kimberly Flowers here, the visual branding expert. I'm super excited that you're here again today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have your coffee because today's discussion is going to be awesome, because today we're going to be talking about how to be intentional about your branding process and how to get real clarity about your brand identity. So branding is an action word, right? And branding has a purpose. What is the purpose of branding? The purpose of branding is for us to be able to communicate as entrepreneurs and as business owners and as people in relationships with all kinds of other people. Our job is to be able to accurately communicate the value of who we are and what we do and how we serve the world and how we add value to the world. And so in order for us to do that, it's very important that we understand our value. And that's why it's important for us to get clarity on our brand identity. I remember what it was like for me to learn how to be intentional about life in general. And I learned this lesson through decorating my space. So let me tell you the story. I remember being in my room at my parents' house, and I remember thinking to myself, I can't live like this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. Because in the room, there was just a bunch of inherited items. Nothing that I had really picked out. It was just matters of convenience. It was an old couch that was about as old as I was, a bed that used to belong to someone else, a coffee table that used to belong to someone else. Everything in the room, it seemed to belong to someone else. And I remember feeling frustrated in the space and not really understanding at the time why I was feeling frustrated. But I remember I took on the project to say, I can't take this anymore. I want something of my own. I want something that is me. I want something that speaks or represents me in this space before I go crazy. So I decided to decorate my space. And what I did, as I started to take out all the inherited pieces, all the things that were not me, and replace them with things that I loved, things that I wanted in the space, the new couch, a new bed, a new throw pillows and new pictures and new vases and new, all kinds of things. And I remember thinking to myself, you live the life that you accept or the life that you intentionally pursue. And I remember thinking to myself, if I can be intentional about my space, I remember looking at it after it was all done and feeling like, oh my goodness, like it was another level of peace. It was another level of serenity, because I identified with it. It was me. It was everything that I love in one little space. And I couldn't stop staring at random things in my space because I just enjoyed it so much. And branding works the same way. We have to be intentional about the experience that we bring to other people, because as a business owner, in order for us to help people make buying decisions about working with us as opposed to working with our competition, it's going to be very important that we help people to identify our value, identify why we are unique and why they should go with us as opposed to someone else, right? So today let's look at 5 different ways that you can get brand clarity. Brand clarity, because in order for you to be able to communicate your value, you have to understand your value first. And in order for you to understand your value, you have to sit down and we have to evaluate, get clear about what it is that we're offering to the world. So here are 5 questions we need to ask ourselves when we're getting clear about our brand identity. Question number 1, what is my brand about? So this would be a great time for you to get out a paper and a pen and really just brain dump. What is it that you are all about? Write down any ideas and any words that you think identify with who you are as a brand and who you are as a business and who you are as a company. How do you add value? The best way to think about this is to think about going to a networking meeting. And when you go to a networking meeting, there's going to be lots of conversation. People are going to ask you, what is it that you do? And I want you to answer that question inside and really just, internalize it and ask yourself, how do I add value? What would I tell someone about who I am and what I do? Get clear and get specific about what it is that you do, how you add value, and what your purpose really is. What are you really passionate about? If you're having trouble answering that question about passion, and a lot of us do, we're not clear about who we are sometimes, but a good way to think about what you're passionate about is to really start diving into your desires. What are things that you talk about a lot? Think of the conversations that you're having with people. Is there a repetitive thought or idea or something that you keep going back to, something that energizes you, something that, dominates your thought processes? Those are usually your passions, and your passions usually are directly tied to your purpose. And so you want to think about, what am I passionate about? Because when you realize what you're passionate about, then you can start to craft your brand message. Question number 3, what is my brand message? What is the tonality that I convey my thoughts and my ideas around, what it is that I do? Once you know what you do and how you add value to the person, to the client, and to whomever you're in a relationship with, you want to ask yourself, what is your style? Are you funny? Are you serious? Are you inspirational? Are you, sarcastic? Are you witty? You absolutely want to add value with what you're saying, but what makes you unique is really how you say it. So it's very important for you to get clear on your brand message as it pertains to tonality. The 4th question you need to ask is, who is the target audience? This is super important because you don't know what you can say until you know who you're saying it to, because the language is going to look a lot different if you're talking to, say, coaches, speakers, and authors, and then the very next moment you need to talk to employees that maybe work at McDonald's. You're not going to use the same language when talking to an employee, first of all, as you would with talking to an entrepreneur, because they don't speak the same language. They have very different thought processes and ways of, operating in the space that they're in. So it's very important that you understand who your target audience is, and that will help you get much more clarity on your brand identity. So question number 5 really is the heart of brand identity. We talked about brand identity being, what do I want to be known for? And this is the 5th question that we want to ask ourselves is, how do you want to be perceived? How do you want people to know you? And then you want to write all these things down. Be very specific about how you want other people to see and experience and hear about you. This is going to be super important when establishing your uniqueness and what makes you special and what makes you valuable. So you've heard from me. Now I want to hear from you. What are some other questions that you can think of that you can ask yourself to help you get clear on your brand identity? That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. I'm Kimberly Flowers, and you've been watching Beauty and the Brand.